Well, the PDP acting national chairman has described the defection of the governor of Delta State and other leaders in the state as least expected. Well, speaking during the presentation of certificate of return to the party's candidate in the forthcoming Anambra state governorship election, Damagum notes that the fate of PDP in 2027 will not be determined by the number of governors it has, but by a fight between Nigerians and the ruling All Progressives Congress and its policies.
It's very sad and unfortunate, because to me, if there's any state that should think that way, not Delta, because the party is very magnanimous. I thank God that in their message, they didn't say that the party did anything wrong to them, other than good. It's a decision taken by them, but the pains will be in us.
Tell all of us here that PDP, Anambra State is a PDP state. Our unity that is the PDP Anambra State. Everybody contesting the election in Anambra State now, we are once a candidate or aspirant in PDP. Even the serving governor now.
Meanwhile, the national chairman of the governing All Progressives Congress, Abdullahi Ganduje, says more governors will join the party. He also expressed confidence that the 2027 general elections is a done deal for his party, the APC. Ganduje was speaking in his residence in Abuja when he received some prominent members of the new Nigeria People's Party from Kano State, led by Senator Kawu Sumaila, and the former secretary to the state government, Dr. Abdullahi Bafa Bichi, who defected to the APC barely 24 hours after mass defections in Delta State.
Well, for more on the repercussions of this mass defection on the PDP and the 2027 elections, we're joined now by public communications expert, Professor Okechukwu, and Arise analyst Mahmoud Jega. Thank you both of you gentlemen for joining us on News Night tonight. Let me start with you, Prof. First off, your thoughts on this, defections in Nigeria, and especially the ones that we have seen in the last few days. Would you say that these defections really stem from, some kind of ideology that aligns with the national ethos or political ethos of the country? What are your thoughts about these defections?
I think the general perception is that the defections are instigated by personal political interests and pressures connected with it. So it's not about ideology. If you also look at those who are defecting or those who have defected, you must also ask yourself, what's the ideology they had before from which they've switched? And what ideology did they say is making them join another party? They say, I'm just defecting to this party. So bandwagon effect, personal interest, lack of conviction, a poor political culture. So all of that is on the table. But the other thing to note is that there's nothing criminal in political defection. You can defect to another political party out of conviction. That, look, I believe this is where the welfare of the people will be better served, so I'm joining them. But that's not what we're hearing. There's a lot of undercurrent. 2027 is a strong element. You discover that you probably, the ruling party is probably so strong and growing, much stronger, that by the time we get to 2027, your chances will be diminished if you're not in that party. That could make you defect. It's quite possible there's inducement, among so many other things. So it is not unusual to defect. Convictions can change. Even people change their religion. But the point, and that is what makes it appear to stink, is that almost every observer suspects, let me not say believes, that those defecting are not defecting for any clear ideological reasons.
Mahmoud Jega, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I want to ask you, are you as surprised as the PDP when it comes to the Delta case? But most importantly, at the peak of its success as a party, the PDP controlled, I guess, about 29 states, if I'm not wrong, in 2007. And I wonder if all this talk about the collapse of opposition and democracy is much ado about nothing. Haven't we seen this pattern before?
as the PDP official was saying, defections are not new in Nigerian politics, and at the height of PDP's power, people were defecting from all the opposition parties into it. And it was smugly confident and boasted that it will rule for 60 years. Well, that didn't happen because the opposition coalesced and major parts of PDP also broke away. But you see, when you talk about surprise, I was personally surprised that this should start in Delta State, because Delta is one of the most, or has been one of the most solidly PDP states since 1999. It has never been ruled by any other party apart from PDP. And from here, I cannot also see any threat to PDP's continued dominance of that state. But of course, the politicians will know better. You know, in secondary school geography, we were told that when people move from one place to another, like from rural areas to urban areas, there are both pull factors and push factors. Now, one can see that if you are an ordinary PDP member, you will be quite despondent right now, because the party is really in a mess. And even the national leadership, with the national chairman that was saying all that sad and unfortunate development, the national leadership is strongly suspected to be in the APC pockets right now. Now, about the pull factor, it is difficult to see what is the pull factor in APC right now, because with the current economic situation in the country, the party, people should actually be running away from it. I don't see why anybody should go there when it is not very popular at this time, except, as Prof said, you see the power of the federal resources and the security agencies and the treasury and everything. And since these politicians are essentially thinking about their own personal survival and viability, they don't really care about what the people think or feel. They feel that this is the place to go where you will be secure electorally because of the money and the power and everything at the 2027 elections. That's the only way you can understand that people from NNPP and PDP are flocking into APC at this time. It is not because it is a very, very popular party in the minds of many Nigerians at this time.
So, Prof. Okechukwu, if, you know, based on what Malam Mahmoud Jega has just said, that the APC ordinarily is not exactly as popular as one would expect it to be, at least in his own view. Now, when you defect to the APC from the opposition party to the APC, is that not an endorsement of what ordinarily seems to be a party that's not delivering on the goods, whether you're talking about, you know, security, the economy, even democracy as a whole? So how do you explain this? When you compare with what happened in 2014, where people jumped ship from the governing party, the PDP, and joined this behemoth of a coalition called the APC that eventually took over power in 2015. How do you describe what is going on now?
Well, when you say that the APC is not popular, my question would be...
That's according to what Malam
yes. Who is saying so?
Yes.
You see, the elite who are defecting find it a popular platform because, like even Mahmoud said, it will enable them to actualize certain ambitions. So if you're looking at it, a political elite that wants survival is looking at a platform for power, not a platform to offer public service. And to that extent, APC becomes attractive. So the issues on the table, people are being killed, there's hunger in the land, inflation is everywhere. Now, that's you and I saying that, not the elite who are making these exchanges. The other point also to note, perhaps, even if mischievously, is that who is really responsible for what we are seeing today? Many of us believe that a lot of people are not, did not get to the National Assembly or all kinds of office by pure electoral engagements. Now, if I am taking part in an election, and for you to vote for me, I give you 20,000. Having given you 20,000, quite frankly, I have no obligation to you for the next 4 years because I paid you upfront at the rate of a salary of 5,000 naira per annum for 4 years.
So the idea that this could be a betrayal of those who voted, for them does not even arise.
It doesn't arise. Betrayed, they didn't vote, they were paid off. That's number one. Now, those who spend that money are trying to recoup their money. So they are looking for a place that will be attractive for them to achieve what they set out to achieve, which is get into political office, make as much money as you can, live like a king at the expense of everyone else, because that's what we are seeing. Last year's budget, I think it performed, was it 40%? What happened to the 50%? And who is complaining? Nobody. Those whom it's supposed to impact, nothing happened. People are moving with excitement into new political platforms. So it's not about leadership, it's not about service, it's about personal political future in an environment where people are dying of hunger.
Mahmood Jega, I would like to stretch further my initial question to you to say that this is not a new pattern. We've seen a political party in the country that was dominant at the center and at the subnationals. What is making it so different this time around that the alarm bells are ringing? And then if opposition political parties are, failing and democracy is crumbling like is being said, where does that leave the Nigerian voter that goes through the rigor of accreditation, getting the PVCs, going on, bracing the weather conditions to cast a ballot, to bring in an individual to office, and then from the confines of his office or wherever they meet, they decide to defect to another party?
Yeah, it has been an issue since the start of this republic. One is elected on the platform of one political party, and then he moves to another political party without abandoning the position that he acquired on the platform of another party. It leaves, you are asking about the Nigerian voter, it leaves him where he has always been, which is stranded. So the only thing that even the APC should not gloat too much, because you see, when too many people flock into your political party, not for any altruistic reasons or ideological or anything, they come out of a desperate calculation as to how they can grab political offices. Now, there is a limit to the number of people who can get political offices. So the contests in the primary elections are going to be very tough and very bitter. And those who came to your party in order to be able to be better positioned to grab certain positions, if they don't get them, make no mistake about it, they didn't come for altruistic reasons. If they didn't get what they were hoping to get, they could as well move on. The next election is still 2 years away, and the way Nigerian politicians are, one should not be gloating at this stage. You must wait and see what happens by 2027.
How do we clean up our political party system? We had Chief Bode George on the morning show who actually, talked about a time when the political party was in charge. The political party was the one voted for. And so if a candidate, for example, decides to decamp, he loses his seat. How do we clean up the political party system in a way that it strengthens, the political parties? And shouldn't there be consequences for this, jumping of ship here and there?
There ought to be. To begin with, it's to affirm the primacy of the party and not the candidate. I believe something like that is in the law books, or is it in the constitution, in the guidelines. It needs to be enforced. Even from the crisis arising from Rivers State, it's obvious that there are conflicting court judgments, and people feel, I understand, outraged that people, that the paradigm that means that that says if you leave your party, you've lost, is not being upheld. That's number one. Number two, and more critically, is for the parties to actually become political parties. They are not political parties. They are election securing, platforms.
Or special purpose
vehicles for the acquisition of political office. Because think about it, there is nothing going on among all the parties as I speak, but big men meet. Now, when it's close to election, some money is budgeted, they will come down to, okay, Okechukwu is in charge of this area, he has some money, he makes things happen there. Therefore, there's no real party membership, whether we like it or not. There's no real party loyalty. There's no real ideology. And to that extent, being that they are not parties, what are you going to clean up? But the difference can come from focused leadership, which is a party, for instance, can decide to become one by ensuring that there are party activities every quarter in every state, wherever they are. You say, okay, start from the ward. Okay, ward chairman, let's suppose this is my state. All ward chairman in this state, please hold a meeting and bring me ideas on what you think we can do. Now, they're not going to bring fantastic ideas, but you're making them to get together, meet each other, talk among themselves, meet with their members. You move from ward to local government, then the party chairman. All of that becomes activity that generate conversation, that enables you know who has some capacity and all of that. Now, it's not happening across any of the parties. What happens is that, okay, I know you, just follow me around long enough, we'll see where we'll put you. So many more people are looking for positions, not responsibility or leadership, and that's where we are today. To clean it up, enforce the law that the party is not is primary and not the candidate, and secondly, let the parties do real membership recruitment and mobilization.
Interesting. Mamu Jega, someone described political parties in Nigeria as a convergence of political entrepreneurs. They're just there for themselves. But let me ask you, just as Ngozi has asked Prof here, how do we ensure that political parties can actually work? And are they even to blame for what we're seeing? Because there are those who have said these defections are being, individuals are being coerced to defect. There's a talk of harassment, fifth columnists, the governing party, destabilizing the opposition parties. You hear all of these talks. So can we really blame the political parties for what we are seeing, and how do we clean it up?
I'm glad I was not asked the question that Prof was asked, that how do we really clean, because you see, those of us who are old enough to remember the political parties of the Second Republic, there is a world of difference between those ones and what we have had since 1999. The parties of the Second Republic, you could see where almost all of them stood, whether on the right or on the left. Some were quite ideological, some were. But this time, you see, nobody can really say what a political party stands for, apart from the conglomeration of people. If you are asked what is PDP in Nigeria or what is APC, you can only say because so people are the ones in there. You can hardly say what is its program about almost anything, and that applies to all the major parties. But the particular problem that we have at this time is the subterranean subversion of the main opposition, PDP, by the ruling APC. Because as anybody can see, the PDP National Working Committee is beholden to a minister who is in the APC cabinet, and then the other most powerful organ of PDP, which is the governors, when they met last time in Ibadan, they declared that they have nothing to do with coalition or alliances towards 2027. Now, that sounds very much like trying to hand over the election beforehand to the ruling party, because how can any serious politician at this stage say he is ruling out all consideration of alliances or mergers or anything? It is different if you don't want to follow the presidential candidate, former one, Atiku Abubakar, or the LP presidential candidate. But to rule out coalitions and alliances sounds suspiciously like maybe it's not just the governor of Delta State, maybe the majority of the PDP governors are also on their way out. That was my own reading of the situation.
Prof, this might sound like a joke, but it really isn't. Somebody asked, is there any need for INEC to be given billions of naira, to conduct elections if at the end of the day there are no ideological, lines whatsoever? We have this situation where people are defecting from party A to B to C and back to A and, what have you. That on the one hand. About a week ago, Yesom Wike, Malam Jega just referred to him, the FCT minister, made a statement, and it seemed that a lot of people did not take note of what he said. He said Nigerian politics is really not about who is the best man. It's not about popularity. It's really about, who can muzzle the most. Does that really define our democracy, our politics?
Today, yes, that's what defines it. He's making a statement of fact. It's not about who is the best, it's about who can push his way through. Pushing your way through maybe through money, maybe through undermining others, etc. That's the point. But on the point Mahmoud made about APC destabilizing PDP and all the others, is a point that's all over the place. But I keep saying,
right,
you must be extremely incompetent, helpless, unstrategic, or perhaps foolish or crippled for the problem, all the problems you have to be coming from your neighbor. PDP is oh yes, nobody has addressed the shamelessness of this allegation, particularly from respected PDP members. Oh, it is APC causing our trouble, for goodness sake. APC was once an opposition party. The PDP never spared it in any way, but it muscled itself to power. And you're now saying, now do you expect us to come and cry on your behalf, to come and rescue you, a vehicle that's supposed to rescue the people? There was a state of emergency in Rivers State. They said, oh, Nigerians should rise and oppose it. Which Nigerians? When your members in the National Assembly did not rise and oppose it, you're talking about the man who cannot buy fish anymore to eat, but is buying crayfish to make his soup, to rise. Is it rising from hunger or from poverty? So that's an element of the crisis that needs to be contemplated. The PDP, the opposition is incompetent. But on the matter of whether INEC is a platform for conducting elections, the electoral process is part of the democratic process. Now, the subversion of that process by the behavior of the participants is a different matter from whether or not INEC is a necessary institution. It is a necessary institution. The police is a necessary institution. That some police people are alleged to behave badly doesn't remove the need for it. Right. We are looking at an institution that's not optimal in terms of both performance and profile. But as to whether or not it must conduct elections, it must spend money doing that, it must pay electoral officers, it must pay for logistics, it must pay for printing papers. So abolition of INEC, or the question of whether it should exist, I'm not sure it's
I guess the fundamental question is, do people need to vote? If the votes at the end of the day look like they don't count. Let's quickly give
Mahmoud Jega 20 seconds for a final word. Mahmoud Jega, how would you describe the state of the Nigerian democracy, given all that we have discussed tonight?
The major political parties, their institutions, their organs are hardly functioning. They are supposed to hold national executive committee meetings, I think, every quarter, and a convention every 2 years, and they are not doing that. APC is not doing that. PDP is not doing that. The Labour Party, you are not even sure who is the leader. There are 3 leaderships. I think one, Apapa, then there is the caretaker committee led by the former Minister of Finance, and then there is the man who refused to leave. So that kind of organization. And the political parties are the main instruments for political mobilization and also for contesting elections. You can't contest election without the political parties because they are the organs recognized by the Constitution. And if all of them are in a messy situation like this, then you cannot possibly say that the democratic experiment in Nigeria is healthy at this point.
How would you describe or define our democracy?
A democracy on crutches and in danger of going into coma, mainly because those who are supposed to make it democratic are busy focusing on plunder rather than service delivery, and because also the electorate thinks that it can behave badly and then get good leadership.
Right. And there's no better way to live it tonight. Mahmoud Jega, Rise analyst, thank you very much for joining us. And Professor Okechukwu, right here with us in the studio, public communications expert, joining us tonight on Newsnight.